Welcome back to week 5 of Business Skills and Social Work. Let's get started. This week in Business Skills for Social Work, we are looking at East Chapter 5 and Brown Section 4 with the learning outcomes of heart and soul leadership, empathy and shame, the law of consistency, and looking at resistance. In the East text, we are going to look at servant leadership and authentic leadership. Take a moment to ponder. What to you does it mean to lead with heart and soul? Heart, head, and soul leadership is about transformational leadership. And it requires that we, again, look at ourselves and know ourselves, but more importantly, it requires that we look at our heart and we know how to lead with heart. Leading with heart involves the agape in our leadership practices, which includes the love of our work, our mission, those with our clients, our students, our patients, or consumers, and our colleagues. The second way of leading with heart is connectedness through relationships, which is the embodiment of love. This connectedness is an understanding that our work as leaders involves a conviction about the connectedness of life and the importance of relationships in our work. Leading with soul includes servant leadership theory, authentic leadership, and spiritual leadership theory, and provide a perspective for leading with meaning. On one of our videos, we have Tyler Perry and him talking about, who's now a renowned producer and actor, and also has a company, a big production company. And he talks during his talk about how his values of faith and spirituality are a big important part of how he leads and his concept of serving others. When we talk about leading with heart and soul, it's not exclusive to our spirituality, but oftentimes in leadership, it does include the leader's view of their own spirituality. So servant leadership is a philosophy and practices that enrich the lives of individuals and communities and organizations, because it begins with the concept of wanting to serve first before being served. It's the conscious choice that one brings to leadership and then decides, even when it gets tough and difficult to be an administrator, that I'm going to serve and grow as a person. The servant leadership checklist requires several things. It's about listening first. It's about showing up with empathy and seeing the world through the eyes of others. It's about recognizing that you have a power to heal and make changes and make things better for people. Being aware of physical, social, emotional, political, environmental barriers and wanting to do something to change that. It's about using your persuasion to be gentle and non-judgmental and to create change through seeing things in a different light and wanting people to live equitably. It's about being able to see the big future and having that foresight and being a steward of the responsibility and taking responsibility of leadership and committing to people in your organization. And mostly it's about building a community, seeking to create that union and synergy where everyone wants to show up being transformational, transparent, vulnerable, and using their gifts and skills to grow each other and to help for the well-being of our clients. Authentic leadership is when we again have that self-awareness of our insights into our strengths and our weaknesses, and it's a relational transparency that doesn't mind showing that we aren't perfect, because we aren't, and that we make mistakes, and apologizing. It's the principle of putting purpose and heart and value and self-discipline at the center of the relationship with our coworkers, our clients. It's about being real and authentic ourselves, relational, encouraging, empowering, affirming, and even loving to those that we serve and serve. So spirituality and leadership can often go hand in hand. Spirituality is different from religion. Spirituality is about the big picture, the picture of belonging, the concept of purpose and meaning, versus religion is about practicing a specific faith to get to your spirituality. So the way spirituality shows up in an organization is having this gift of imperfection, recognizing that everyone makes mistakes, showing that are willing to serve as a leader. You wouldn't ask someone to do something that you are not doing, by bringing in, illuminating that presence of peace within an environment when there's chaos, being the person that people see as the difference maker, that change, providing a sense of purpose and respect and being and promoting wellness every time you show up. It's that part of spirituality that's important to practice as a transformational, daring leader. So there are 6 practices for leading with heart and soul. It's about using rituals, and this is just the time set aside for a ceremonial thing. For instance, every time I start a session with the client, I use, so let's settle in for a moment and give them a time to shed what they did before they got there and being present in the moment. Maybe as a administrator in a meeting, when I always start out the meeting, what's one good thing that you want to report today? So setting up this basic habit of introduction that everyone knows this is what we can expect in the beginning, that sets this template for us being together. The other practice is healing. It's about emotional healing and transformational leadership, which includes self-care, right? So part of the reason why the breath rumbles are here are not just for you to utilize them and learn how to use them with clients or with coworkers, but it's to make sure that you have that time weekly to just rumble with things that are going on in your own life and caring for yourself. Relationship building is a big part, being able to hold the space for feelings and perceptions and beliefs of another person in this sacred, open space, open mind place, so that people don't feel bad about questioning you or making mistakes themselves. It's about bringing this shared meaning and this mutual understanding and agreement between 2 people in the relationship, you the coworker, or in the organization, you with everyone. Vulnerability and competence are about these balancing emotions and making decisions for the best interest of most people. Promoting hope, that's listening for strength in stories of trauma, oppression and anxiety, telling people stories of hope and change, sharing some of your personal stories of transformation as a leader, and also working collectively and seeing hope as a process of this collective vision and honest assessment. As we consider that, it goes right into our Dare to Lead. Empathy is connecting to the emotions that underpin an experience. Brene talks about empathy being an antidote to shame. And when we operate as a transformational leader and we set up these practices of a healing and mutually respectful environment, we allow people to feel with others and to have empathy and not to operate in shame. But when we are not doing that, people use their shame shields, right? And so the way you shield against shame is that you don't tell the truth, or you blame, or you minimize it, or you come out with rage. Those are ineffective ways to build a transformational environment. And shame shows up at work. It may not show up how it is at home, but it shows up at work. And usually it shows up through perfectionism and favoritism and harassment and comparison and bullying. So we look at those things and we recognize this is not a shame-free space. So what do? We begin to make practices to build the shame resilience. That's when we say that empathy and vulnerability can lead to feeling value and seen by others, recognizing that while shame might isolate, empathy builds this connection and compassion for others and for ourselves. And so looking to see how often am I building this resilience in a place of work. There's a difference between shame, guilt, humiliation, and embarrassment. Brene talks about in the text, it's really important to know the difference. Guilt expresses I did something bad. Shame says I am bad, right? Humiliation is often confused with shame. It's the feeling that comes after being shamed. And embarrassment is temporary and can often change to be funny. So it's a matter of understanding where shame exists and recognizing that, because where shame is, empathy is usually not there. It's usually absent. So how do I bring empathy so that I can wipe out shame? Pay attention also in the text to the shame shields, where she talks about moving away, where we withdraw, we silence ourselves and begin to keep secrets, moving toward, where we seek to appease and please, and moving against, where we act out of anger and power and aggression. Everyone has some sort of shame shield. And as we know ourselves, we know which one is our trigger and which one we turn to. Again, Brene talks about shame resilience. I've talked about some of this, but the biggest thing is that when we speak shame, when we talk about shame that is present, it silences. Shame doesn't like when we have a voice. The opposite of shame is when we show up with empathy, when you suspend your assumptions and you're present and you listen for people's reasonings and you serve others. Again, here we go with that word, serve. Transformational leadership, and we build this space of empathy, we wipe out the opportunities for shame. Pay attention to the empathy traps. I found them very interesting. The big up when you think you're better than someone, the flat line when you minimize someone's feelings, the balance using it's worse, could be worse. And the Californian, where you compliment someone instead of recognizing that they feel bad, the mixed fix it, where you try to make it right, that writing reflex, and then the fear not, when we oversimplify things, will work out when really they may not. So notice what the traps are so that we don't get caught in these, and we can show up using empathy, that eye contact, looking at the muscles of our facial expression, our posture, our affect, our tone of voice, hearing the whole patient and your response. This is what leads to empathic and better communication. This week, the law of consistency lets us know that motivation gets you going, but discipline keeps you growing. And that is so true. I've been motivated for some things, but not disciplined in some things. And there's a difference. So being a consistent leader is about showing up, people knowing that they can count on you and that you come with discipline. You have expectations, you're clear and kind. So what questions might we have about consistent growth? To consistently grow, you have to consider your intentions to grow. And these questions help us focus on the law of consistent growth. They include, do you know what you need to improve? Do you know how you're supposed to improve it? Do you know why you want to keep improving? And do you know when you're supposed to improve? These are good questions to keep at the forefront of helping people to develop and grow. So our personal growth skill this week is to pay attention to your conversations and notice where you sense others making resistance statements. To try out our motivational energy strategy of resistance. Motivational interviewing techniques on responding to resistance include simple reflections where we just state what the content of the conversation is, consider carefully the elements that you want to focus on, and you state those back. Double-sided reflections, which include both sides of ambivalence, where you challenge them to think about that. Amplified reflections, where they have a little bit more intensity to the resistance part of the statement. Agreement with a twist, where you have a reflection or a statement of agreement, but you follow it by a reframe. And then reframing, which is placing a person's statement in a new light, in a new perspective, and involves recasting the resistant or sustained talk element. And then sliding with the negative or coming alongside where you acknowledge that this may not be the right time, place, or circumstance for change. You don't fight what the person is saying. The next one is emphasizing personal choice and giving them like it's your choice, reminding them that only they can choose to change the behavior. And another option is shifting the focus, which responses acknowledge that the current area feels unproductive and shift to an area that may be more helpful or productive for the person. These are our motivational interviewing techniques on responding to resistance. Again, this is the same case study. It's the rule application case. We keep coming back to this so we can work through the same skill with this person. So consider these same skills and think about where that person is showing resistance and how you can counteract that with the strategies that are listed in the slide before. And again, thank you for this week. I will see you soon. Have a great week.